5, 8:30. We'll go ahead and start the meeting. Good morning, everyone, and call to order the meeting of the Planning and Economic Development Committee on July 12th. And we'll start with approval of the minutes. Councilmember Sundberg, did you have a chance to look at those?
Yes, I'm fine with them.
Okay, I did as well. They're very good. Thank you for very thorough minutes. And then first thing on our agenda is the amendment to the Chapter 98 ordinance. Is that Brooke that you're, or no, Nicole, sorry.
Will be Brooke this morning. Nicole is on vacation, so thank you. Good morning. For the record, my name is Brooke Bell. I'm the Director of Parks, Recreation, Open Space. This item is in the city, development in the city is regulated through the UDO, as well as manuals established by individual departments responsible for those standards, the city assets, and the maintenance of those city assets. The Parks, Recreation, Open Space Dedication and Development Criteria Manual was first adopted in 2004 and serves as the regulatory guide for the planning, design, and construction, management, and operation of parks and recreation sites and open space areas under the authority granted to the Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Department. The two proposed amendments before you this morning are the first steps of a much longer process to evaluate the PRO's Dedication and Development Criteria Manual, and none of the language in these two amendments changes the amount of the structure of the current fees. The process is to update the PRO's Standards Manual. The process that will update the PRO's manuals, the Standards Manual will likely take a year and will involve engagement with city leadership, staff in multiple departments, and the development community through the Development Review Advisory Board and the Joint Task Force. Slide number 2, please. So why amend the city code in Chapter 98? This amendment will add 2 new sections to the city code, which will clarify the director's authority to adopt rules and regulations and add definitions for the director for development review fees, land dedication, and cash in lieu. The amendment is intended to add more consistency with other departments who are also involved in development review processes and maintain their own development manuals. Examples of those manuals include Public Works Roadway Design and Construction Specification Manual and Aurora Water's Design Standards and Specification Fees. Next slide, please. This amendment removes redundancy and duplication between the UDO and the PRO's Dedication to Development Criteria Manual. It also states that the requirements for the Park and Open Space Land Dedication Standards Criteria methodology and other items shall be set forth in the PRO's Dedication and Development Criteria Manual. Next slide. In addition, it amends an administrative error by adding park development fees back into city code and UDO, which are inadvertently omitted at the time of the UDO adoption in 2019. The methodology and fee structures are not changing as part of this amendment. Future evaluations of the PRO's manual will include a review of the methodology and fees. In addition, the amendment allows privacy fences to be installed adjacent to public and open space tracts in order to screen views into residential rear and side yards from nearby streets, alleys, and shared drives. The amendment also allows sidewalks serving the primary entry of a residential uses to extend into the 25-foot special landscape buffer adjacent to public parks, open space, and trails. These revisions are requested by the development community, and after review by staff, we support the changes. Next slide. So what I'm saying here is these are all minor amendments that will set us up for future changes to the manual, again, to make them more consistent, to be responsive to development, and to provide the right balance with development and the city needs. And so it will be a process that will take us probably a year. And so the question for the committee is, do you support moving the city code chapter 98 amendments forward and bringing those to the planning, through the planning process to the planning commission? And also, does the committee support moving the UDO amendments items forward and bringing those through the planning process, which will be the planning commission, and finally, all will come to city council?
Councilmember Sundberg, any questions?
No, I like the term responsive to development. It sounds like we're streamlining and updating, just making things more efficient in the long run. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Um,
Great.
my only question on the privacy fencing, it says allows privacy fencing, so it's not mandating that, correct? Development.
I will have to follow up on that, but let me follow up on that, but I don't believe we're mandating that, no. But
Okay,
I
good.
want to confirm that. I can send a response back to the committee.
Good, because I actually have a situation right now that I know Laura Perry's aware of regarding some fencing. So just want to clarify that that is not a mandate in
Clarify
addition
that.
to current code.
I'll
And then
clarify
the
that.
only other thing was on the, I know you said no fee structure changes, and that would go to development community, the joint task force. So the park development fees are not changing at all, right?
For this amendment, the park development fees are not changing. So for this work right now, I cannot say if they will change moving forward. I would say that would be part of the evaluation process, and I don't have any information that would require us to change them at this time.
And
So
so if they do, if down the road, it's deemed that they should change for whatever reasons, it would still have to be approved by council, is that correct? Because it gives you authority. My
yes,
concern is it gives you authority to change fees, but I would think that would still need council approval.
it usually is when we change the fees. We do look at them annually and bring them through the fee evaluation with the budget process each year, because the fees do tend to rise with,
Inflation and,
yes, yes.
okay,
So,
but it would come to us probably in like a budget workshop or something?
yes, well, it would come through the budget process. If you remember it, the fee manual, the fee changes are all attached to the budget process and council. It's part of the budget process.
Okay, and that's different than impact fees, because impact fees we do approve.
I am not familiar with that, but, does anybody else have a response for that? Or I can get information on that.
Councilmember Bergan, Laura Perry, we can commit to come back and provide an
Okay.
update to council. This is the first time of many that
Yeah.
this committee and council will hear from pros in regards to code updates as they proceed forward with reviewing the manual, the definitions in the manual, and then subsequently the fees that tie to those definitions. So the formulas for the fees are in the manual, currently not in code. But for transparency, we can come back to council and keep you all apprised of the formula for how those fees are calculated and seek feedback. And then most importantly, we will be engaging the development community heavily through this process to inform both definitions and certainly on the fee side as well.
But I think the impact fees are, I'm pretty sure they go through council, that we had to approve getting them raised for
Correct.
a couple areas. Okay,
Increases for the fees do go through council.
okay, great.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Sundberg, are you good with moving this forward?
Yes.
Okay, very good. All right, next one is 3B, clarify parks and open space provisions. And I think that try Brooke again.
Could you bring that one up?
So the way that Nicole had it set up, she did one slideshow for both of them.
Yes, okay.
Oh,
And so it's
Okay.
just the ordinance themselves are different, but it is the same presentation.
should we bring the slideshow up or?
It's the same, it's exactly, there's not
that's the
two,
one
it's
you just
just the
saw?
one.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah, I did one slideshow for both items. Both items are covered under the one slideshow. So in both questions, there's two questions at the end of the slideshow, and they speak to the first and the second item.
Okay, all right, so we basically move on 3B, move forward, Councilmember Sundberg. Okay, very good. All right, 3C, UDO text amendment for the rear setback along alleys, and that's Brandon.
Good morning, Chairman Bergan. Thank you. Let me get my share set up and I'll begin a short presentation. Am I sharing my slide here?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, there we go.
There it is.
Brandon, go ahead and hit that display settings and switch up at the top.
Okay, there we go. All set? All right, thank you very much. Sorry for that little hiccup. Good morning. My name is Brandon Camerata. I am a manager in the planning department. Thank you for your time this morning. I have another set of relatively minor, or at least these are minor amendments to the UDO. Again, looking at clarifications and streamlines that we've identified. We've been coordinating with pros and Aurora Water quite a bit over the last few months and getting these various packages ready. As you know, UDO amendments, this is the zoning code for the city, and the process for a zoning code text changes is to also go to Planning Commission for a public hearing, and Planning Commission will then bring a recommendation to the City Council as well. So there are some minor changes in the landscape section of the zoning code. Mostly clarifying unclear or conflicting language. Some of the additional flexibility that we're including that probably indirectly supports some of the water-wise changes are greater allowances for artificial turf, clarifying some items relating to mulch, as well as adding a little more flexibility to how landscape buffers can be used, adding some more usable functions to them. Oftentimes with compact development, multifamily and the like, it's desired to have sidewalks or things of that sort going through the buffers, and we wanted to clarify that that's acceptable and encouraged for the most part. We touch on a few other sections of code, again, just clarifying some things that we've identified that haven't been as clear as they should be. And probably the highlight there that is referenced in the title is simplifications of the alley setbacks. And so that does impact a lot of development that we see throughout the city with the development of alleys. And basically, we're just clarifying or simplifying the setback, the rear setback when there is an alley, to be a minimum setback of 3 feet, period. As opposed to right now, it's a little more complex and there's a little more restrictions there And that is intended to respond to some of the concerns we've identified or heard from the development community. There's utilities and other things going on in the alleys, and we just want to remove ourselves from that discussion for the time being. So that is a high level overview of what's in there. There's a lot of minutia. I'm happy to go through anything in particular you have a question on. Again, the question to this committee is, would you like us to proceed on and go to Planning Commission and on to City Council? Also, if you have any things you'd like us to clarify along the way or what have you, please let us know. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. Councilmember Sundberg, do you have any questions?
I don't think so. The buffer zone you just described in an alleyway, is that based upon, I imagine, developer feedback and previous concerns?
Yes. And so, typically an alley might be 16 or 20 feet wide. And then the setback is, well, how close can I build my nearest building to that? In most cases, it's a garage for an alley. And so, yes, that has been a complexity that we've identified and had to do variances, so to speak, and approved all those variances. And so anytime we're approving variances routinely, it means we should look at that section of code.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then the one on the minimum height, is that, I know we had a development recently where there was a lot of confusion on the height of how it's measured at the peak and so forth. So does this also simplify that to just be a certain height? Is it 50 feet or I can't remember what it was supposed to be?
This is in the MUC zone district. So I don't know if that's that. I think that's a different zone district where that was occurring. But so the MUC zone district is most typically our most common commercial district. But as you know, we've also enabled multifamily to occur in there as well. And so we've had a handful of those proposals in MUC zone districts. And so this clarifies the expectation for height allowance in those districts.
But does it change that crazy calculation that we had? I think it was for extra.
Yeah, the height.
Or does that need to be changed in a different way, in a different place?
I'm happy to have that discussion with you. I know that's been the way we approach height, and there's a number of reasons of why it is that way. In terms of when you get into different situations of grades and how things are situated, and try to have an equitable approach to height and things of those sorts. So at this point, we don't have any plans to change that particular reg, which has been on our books for pre-UDO as well. That's how we managed the height. So I'm happy to have a discussion on what your concerns or thoughts are, what you're hearing about that reg as well.
Okay. Anything else, Councilmember Sundberg? You good?
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. I have one last one, and it's on the artificial turf and the rock mulch. So is that for, that change is for any development and also current, right? It's not just moving forward, it's for anyone, any residential, any commercial.
Right. And Kelly's on, our landscape architect, and she can correct me if I'm incorrect, but yeah, that would be, looking backwards, existing homes can choose to convert to artificial turf more frequently and more opportunities.
And does that apply to our city as well?
The city municipal grounds and things of that sort.
Right.
Yes, I believe it's applicable to non-residential uses. So that would, I believe, include institutional uses, government uses, etc.
Is there anybody else that can clarify that, just to be sure? that were included in that, in the changes?
Councilmember Bergan, this is Kelly. Yes, that ordinance changes applies citywide. It doesn't exempt any particular use or building or type of land development.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you very much, Brandon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next one is 3D, and it's the ordinance clarifying the designation of the floodplain manager. Do we have Steve?
Yes, good morning. This is Steve Durian. I am the Deputy Public Works Director for Development Review for the Public Works Department. And I will actually cover both this item and the next item. They're very well related to each other. The only reason we've separated them is because they changed two different chapters, but they really serve the same goal and purpose. As you may know, we have been working very hard to reorganize the development review process between Public Works and Aurora Water. And these two ordinances will help to clarify some of the code regulations involved with the review of development between the two departments. What we're really trying to do is assign the responsibility to the right folks within those two departments and not have some of the redundancy that occurs when we have two different departments reviewing the same issues. So we've got two positions that are largely affected by this. One is the city engineer in Public Works, and one is the general manager of Aurora Water. Each will be assigned certain duties. First, the Chapter 70 changes assigns the floodplain management responsibilities to the floodplain administrator in Aurora Water, rather than having that approval authority reside with the city engineer. The Chapter 138 changes assign responsibility for master preliminary and final drainage plan review, review of master utility studies, review and approval of stormwater management plan reports to Aurora Water rather than the city engineer. And finally, it also clarifies some of the responsibilities for inspections and assigns those appropriately to either Aurora Water or Public Works. So it's really kind of a cleanup effort. It's really trying to assign the responsibilities to the right department. As a follow-up to these two ordinances, there'll be a follow-up that will have to amend some of the titles that are within the code right now. It refers to the director of Aurora Water, and that title will need to be updated to the general manager of Aurora Water to kind of reflect the current organization titles that are in effect currently.
I thought that.
So that's really what the purpose is. Go ahead.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I thought the title changes were in this ordinance, in the backup. Maybe.
We do. There are many places where this title exists, and so it was a bit of a stretch to try to get both yet a third ordinance in this. So that's something we'll need to follow up with.
Okay. And so I think if I read correctly, some of it would say like assigns to general manager of Aurora Water.
That's right. Yes.
Okay. What happens? Does that mean it always has to go to the very top to get final approval? And the only reason I'm asking is I know our general manager is extremely busy. So would that make the process delayed at all for an answer on a particular development review?
No, these duties can be delegated to the staff within the department.
Gotcha. Okay. Very good. Councilmember Sundberg, any questions?
No, I'm all about creating efficiencies, and hopefully this will streamline things.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
Our next step then, we'll recommend that we move this on to study session. Or
Planning Commission, or does it go to study session?
I believe it would go to study session next.
Okay, very good. I heard a rumor about you.
Oh.
Are you leaving?
I am afraid I am leaving. I have an opportunity at another jurisdiction, so I regret that having to leave without being able to complete all the things I had a goal to complete here, but I do have another opportunity to another jurisdiction.
Well, we will miss you and good luck to you. If you know anyone that can fill your position, let us know.
I am looking hard to see if I can find anyone.
Okay. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay, and next is 3F, and that's the Access Exploration Operator Agreement. And I guess, Jeffrey, are you presenting on this?
Yes, I am. Good morning, council members and staff. My name is Jeffrey Moore. I'm the manager of the Energy and Environment Division here with the city. The applicant, Dan Harrington with Civitas Resources on behalf of Access Exploration, will be making the presentation this morning, and I will make a few remarks after his presentation. So I'm going to turn it over to Dan. I believe he's got some slides to share and we'll make the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Good morning, council members and staff. I appreciate the opportunity to speak here today. Sharing now. So we are seeking today an amendment to the Aurora Access Operator Agreement from 2019 for the purposes of adding a new well site and eliminating 2 well sites originally approved in that agreement. We're looking to add a new well site for 18 wells, and we'll eliminate 2 offset well sites originally approved for 40 wells, with a net effect on the OA of 1 fewer site and 22 fewer wells. This new well site we're calling Deuce is requested via the future well sites mechanism described in 7B2 of the operator agreement, and will be added to exhibits A and D via council vote if we move forward. Additionally, Access has agreed to construct the Deuce site and spud the wells within 3 years of the effective date of this amendment per the request of the Oil and Gas Department. Access also is requesting an exemption to the requirement for produced water takeaway by pipeline, which is in Section 4 of the OA for the Deuce site, allowing for trucked produced takeaway during the production phase. This is consistent with what Access and Crestone do throughout the rest of Aurora. Here's an overview map of the area we're looking at. The Access OA area sits just south of DIA, straddling E470 east of Pena Boulevard. So we'll be looking to add a new site called the Deuce here in the industrial park area east of E470. If we zoom in here, the Deuce could be considered a shift in the previously approved ACPE site, which is shown here in the south. The move here is about 1,700 feet. It's within the same section. Allowing us to move the site to here has some advantages. We dramatically improved the setback from Second Creek, which is a designated mile high flood district stream. It also moves the site further from the future residential development south of 56th Avenue. And with extended reach drilling from the Deuce site, we'll be able to eliminate another site to the west, the Hammer site that I'll show you on the next plat. We've been in consultation with the surface owners representation on the site move, and they are fully supportive. These are the updated exhibits A and D that would be approved and go into the operator agreement. As you can see, we would eliminate the ACPE site, which you just saw, which originally approved for 8 wells, as well as the Hammer site just off E470 to the west, which was originally approved for 32 wells. And we'll get all this done from the Deuce site with its 18 wells. Exhibit D is simply a table listing essentially the same information. Additionally, we wanted to emphasize that we would evaluate and potentially re-enter and replug a number of legacy non-Civitas operated wells in the area. As I think everyone here knows, there is often a need to replug legacy wells that were plugged not to modern standards in the past. And there are about 19 of them in the area that we'll be looking at, a number of which we have already replugged or which are already on our replugging schedule. Thank you. Any questions?
Councilmember Sundberg?
No, I don't.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I think, in really looking at this, you're reducing the number of wells. You're moving them obviously away from residential, away from that creek. So I think, overall, it's actually a really good thing environmentally. And then certainly the replugging of those legacy wells is also, important for safety. So, Jeffrey?
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Bergan. I agree with all the things that you've just said. Additionally, removing the former location that was approved to the west of E470, I think is a great thing for the city. It takes that out of consideration and officially removes it from the operator agreement. And yes, replugging of the old P&A wells that exist in a very getting more dense as you move north toward DIA is a very big benefit to the city, and I appreciate that Civitas is willing to do that. Our division has reviewed this. We are very supportive of the changes. I've also personally confirmed support by the surface owner for this change as well. If we approve today, we would be prepared to move this forward to a study session on July 24th and then to a public hearing at council on July 31st.
Okay. One more question, well, a couple more questions. When will they start the drilling? Dan?
Oh, yes. This is currently sitting on our drill schedule for roughly 18 months out. That is subject to change, but we're committing to spud prior to 3 years from the approval of the amendment.
Okay. And then on that exemption of the produced water versus trucked water, I think I heard we have this exemption comes up several times. So is this something we were talking earlier about when we have exemptions or variances that come up quite often, then we just completely change the UDO standard. Would that be in one of those situations, or do we still need to do this on a case by case?
For the access so the Crestone Aurora operator agreement does not have that requirement. So it doesn't apply to the bulk of our operations in the area to begin with. The access operator agreement does have that rule, and that was tied to a concept of installing a commercial water disposal facility, either in the city of Aurora or in unincorporated Arapahoe County near Aurora. That is no longer really regulatorily feasible, which is why we're requesting this exemption. To open the text of the operator agreement and make that blanket change is administratively a little more difficult. So we moved ahead. We had this conversation, moved ahead with a site-specific exemption produced.
All right. Thank you very much. Jeffrey, anything else?
No, ma'am. I agree with that, what Dan has said in terms of making this, looking at it on a case-by-case basis. It is in line very much with what they're doing on all the other sites in Aurora. The water that's being brought to the site for completion operations is being done in lay flat lines. And then the natural gas connects to a pipeline system production, and the oil production will connect to a pipeline as well. So all that's being taken care of by pipeline. The only thing that will be handled by trucks will be the produced water production. That production begins kind of high at the initial start of the well, but it does drop off very rapidly in terms of how many trucks are required to remove that water and during the lengthy production phase.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And Councilmember Sundberg, are you good with, well, do we need to move this forward to study session? Yes.
Yes.
You good with that, Councilmember
I'm
Sundberg?
good.
Okay, it will move forward. Thank you very much, Dan and Jeffrey.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and next we have the small business event update. Marcia McGilly.
Morning, council members, economic partners, and staff. My name is Marcia McGilly, the Executive Director of the Aurora South Metro Small Business Development Center in Business Services and Planning and Development Services. We have a very exciting event that the city is a sponsor of, so I wanted to share that specific event, Veteran Small Business Conference with you today. And I want to make sure you can see that. Are you seeing the slides?
We are.
Great. So this is the 16th annual Veteran Small Business Conference, and I will go through the details. The presenting sponsors are the Aurora South Metro Small Business Development Center in partnership with the Pikes Peak Small Business Development Center. The premier sponsor is the City of Aurora through AURA, a generous contribution to be a premier sponsor again. as they were last year. This is in partnership with both the Aurora Chamber, Colorado Springs Chamber, SBA, and Connect to Dot. You don't really need to know that. Overview. This is the premier event for military veteran entrepreneurs and their partners and spouses. This will be the 16th year. For 14 years, the Pikes Peak SBDC ran this program. We took it over last year. It was still, because of COVID and surveys that we got, remote. This year it will be in person. Last year's successes, 2,578 total page views, 161 registrants. Our goal was 150. 26 different exhibitors in the online program, and 60 roundtable participants. It was very well received, and we are the website just opened this week, and we are already seeing registrations for this year in person. The event details are Monday, September 18th from 8 to 4. It will be obviously at the Hyatt Regency Aurora. Our goal is 200 in-person attendees. 15 small businesses will have the opportunity to exhibit, and then 10 to 15 community partners will have tables. The access, the website is open. The registration is there, $129 per attendee ticket, $250 for the small business exhibitor, and $500 for a community partner exhibitor booth. Here's our agenda. We'll have a VIP reception the night before for speakers, sponsors, and dignitaries. Our event begins at 8 o'clock on Monday, the 18th of September, with welcoming remarks from the mayor and a few other people. Our opening keynote speaker is Danny Moore. Mr. Moore is the president and founder of De Novo Solutions in Aurora. He served his last military job he served 24 years as a Navy veteran, running the aerospace facility at Aurora. We will then go into breakout sessions. I will show you the titles on the next one. Have concurrent sessions opening for exhibits and a closing event, much like other conferences that you have. Here are the breakout sessions. I'll give you a moment to sort of read those.
The most exciting one is how to work with the government.
Pardon, question on that one?
No, I said the most exciting breakout session is how to work with the government.
And I believe I'm working with purchasing to see if they'll sit at the table for the city of Aurora. I think that's the most important DEI and purchasing connection that we can do. So military spouses, that was very well attended last year. I was the MC for that one, and it was very well attended. So here's the floor plan of the Hyatt. I'm sure you've been to many events there with the booths in the hallway. Committee members, just so you know, we're working with obviously the SBDC, we're working with Colorado Springs Chamber and the Aurora Chamber. We're working with the Mount Carmel Veterans Service Center. That is the new VBOC, the Veterans Business Office Center for the state of Colorado. It's been in Utah forever, and SBA funded it in Colorado this year. We're very excited. The SBA, and then obviously Rainey Simard. Sponsors so far, City of Aurora, Connect to Dot, the Department of Transportation, City of Colorado Springs, B-Side, and many of the other nonprofit funders, including SEDS and others, the Armed Forces Bank and Colorado Enterprise Fund. We have a very long list. They're just not all on the list yet today, but we're closing those sponsorships rapidly. Here is the sponsorship sheet. Aurora is obviously getting that first $15,000, all those benefits, and Andrea and I are working on that. Marketing and promotion, we're sending out a marketing toolkit now that the website's live to promote for registrants. It's a full promotional package. I just want to let you know from an impact standpoint, I'll stop sharing it this time. Just for the impact, we'll have 40 room nights is what our room block is, and 200 people coming from across the state. We, of course, anticipate a lot from the Front Range, certainly Aurora and Colorado Springs, because those are the two SBDCs, but all of the SBDC centers in the network are promoting this, and it tends to get a wide draw into the location, to the city of Aurora. And if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Otherwise, that's what I just want to update you on this great big event we're doing, and we're so excited about it.
Well, it sounds like a wonderful event. You mentioned the VIP reception on the 17th, and that the mayor would be speaking. So would council members be invited? We often don't get told until the week before, and sometimes our schedules fill up. So I was just wondering if that was something that was going to go to council.
And let me clarify that in two parts. The mayor will be speaking at the opening of the conference in front of everyone. The VIP reception, I am going to put you on that list because I can. So we will make sure you're invited to the VIP reception. Anything else?
Councilmember Sundberg?
Yeah, sounds like a great event. You may have mentioned this, but I was curious how you target possible attendees who are veteran entrepreneurs or those who wish to be.
Okay, very good question. We have a massive list of all the organizations that military that are leaving and looking for new options into the market. The Boots to Business program that the SBA goes on to the bases in the state of Colorado. They're promoting. We're promoting through the chambers. We have all of the lists from the last 15 years, and we promote directly to those that attended in the past. We serve a great deal of veteran would-be entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs because of Buckley, right? They're our largest employer in the state or in the city. And so we're working with many veterans now, and we promote within the whole SBDC system.
Thank you.
We have probably 15 organizations that are doing the marketing to outreach to this population to make sure we fill the conference and we are serving the veteran community.
Yes, there are some amazing creative entrepreneurs who have served out there, even on our own council.
Absolutely, we know that.
Great, thank you, Martha. Do you have other updates, or was that yours?
That's it for today. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it very much. It sounds very very exciting. So next are the miscellaneous matters. I don't think there are any reports. There's reports attached in our backup from Oil and Gas Planning Commission and Havana Business Improvement District. Others have no report. Yuri, are you on the call? Because yours, I don't know if you had a report or not.
Good morning.
Good morning,
members. Yes, just a few comments, if I may. So I just wanted to update everybody about kind of absorption, construction rates, more planned development. I think we're still seeing through the first half of the year, some good numbers, even though the market's a little inconsistent month over month. So I just wanted to point that out, that in terms of industrial and office velocities, there's still plenty of things going on in the city, and planned development continues to push forward with a number of projects that you all are aware of. I don't need to go through them. We're entering into some new partnerships as the EDC with some community organizations, some statewide efforts on some new industry efforts, going after some grants, and figuring out who else we can leverage to get some attraction to Aurora, and promote it, continue to promote it. There was legislation about data centers and the film industry and employer housing credits during the legislature that we're starting to talk about, and employers are responding positively to. So just wanted to point that out. The businesses are excited about what the legislative session accomplished, even though there were some controversies. And then lastly, I think we're starting to hear a lot of manufacturers, that are chasing the federal dollars at the beginning of end of last year, beginning of this year, really starting to put plans together, which is a good sign. There's a lot of funding going into that industry as a whole, mostly advanced manufacturing, of course, with energy and batteries and hydrogen and all of that. So we're continuing to try to reel in those companies, and we've had a number of successes talking to folks outside on recruitment trips that we've made out to Phoenix and California, and we're planning a few more trips to Texas and North Carolina and a few other markets to continue the conversations with aerospace and bioscience and manufacturing companies. So that's all I have for today, unless I have questions.
What about semiconductor industry? There was that incentive that was passed by the federal government.
And by the state, and the state office is setting up an office and a dedicated staff to go after that industry. Yeah, it's a double-edged sword because I think they're resource heavy and intense, right, in terms of power and water. And so we want to be sensitive to what we get and how efficient those operations can be. But we're talking to a few of them, and have had a handful that have reached out to the state and Aurora to see if things would work. They haven't, because some have been a little heavy on the utility usage, but we continue to pursue them, and I think there's some opportunities to land a few in the supply chain. At least it might not be the mega factory of the chip manufacturer, but in their supply chain, the components that go into them, there are operations that need less power and water.
Yeah, I read something recently. It was about China that has two, and I don't remember the names of the two minerals or whatever that go into the chip making, but that they pretty much have the monopoly on those two, which could possibly hurt our opportunities to expand our semiconductor industry.
Sure, there's some constraints. I know what you're talking about, and so I think there's some new technologies coming forward, and solid state batteries and all of that are looking at other resources.
Okay, great. Councilmember Sundberg, any questions for Yuri?
Thanks, Yuri. No, just a comment that as we lure these top companies in, we remain as a state a business-friendly state, unlike California, where a few hundred headquartered businesses have left in the last few years because of overregulation and taxation and just difficulties in doing business.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, council members.
Okay, anyone else that said they didn't have a report that has a report that they'd like to comment on quickly?
Member Bergan, may I make a couple of brief comments on the Planning Commission report, please? Sure. For those of you that didn't have an opportunity to look at the numbers, in the past 13 months, Planning Commission has reviewed 133 cases, which means development projects. Only 2 have been appealed before City Council, and City Council upheld 100% of Planning Commission's appeals. Of those 133 cases, 18 were zoning cases, and City Council upheld 100% of the recommendations for rezoning by planning commissions. What this represents to me is the consistency of a process. We are 2 very independent bodies, Planning Commission and City Council. And as folks come through the Aurora process, I think that this speaks to consistency, not huge risk. It saves time and cost for the development community. And this always has not been the case in the city of Aurora. But I think that it's pleasing for us, and I hope pleasing for you, that we seem to be marching in lockstep while working very independently with one another. That's it.
Thank you, Becky. I think you've done a remarkable job, you guys. I don't think people appreciate how much you put in terms of workload into these kind of decisions. And I will say it's good that we have those independent entities to be able to also hear appeals. I think that's a very important process for our residents, that they have that opportunity to present their case to us. So I appreciate everything you do. Thank you. All right. Any other?
Just thank you, Becky, for your time, experience, and expertise on the committee.
You're welcome. And I'm joined by many other planning commissioners. So
to all of you, yes.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. Thank you. Anybody else? All right, with that, we will adjourn the meeting. I will say there is a change, so pay attention. We had to change our PED meeting to August 2nd at 8:30 rather than the following, the normal second Wednesday of the month. So, and it will be virtual as well. And with that, I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.